Okay, I'm going to walk you through some file management tricks and tips here. Hopefully this will help you on your way to managing your files better. So you're looking at pretty much how most of us store our files on the desktop or in folders and kind of just here, there, and yonder. So if I were to open up one of these folders, it's an icon view and it's showing me all of these files, and I want to find the file I want. I imagine with kind of the advent of Google and the advent of easy search on all the operating systems, most people would search their machines. So they don't drill through a lot of the folders. They just search for CST251, find the file they want. In this case, I've got a bunch of them, but it tells me where it is. And, let's see here, which is the one I want. So here's the one I want, and then I would just open it, and then I would drag the files to wherever else I need them. So that's great on the desktop, but when you start getting into the world of the web, you need to be able to visualize where this file is using your computer or being able to access it with a web browser. So I'm going to go ahead and close this and go back here to my Documents folder where I keep this folder for CST251. And I notice that it's here. So I notice that it's inside my Documents folder, and it's a folder called CST251, and currently there's no folders in there, but I could make a new folder called Images, and that might be the place where I hold the images for my website. So the trick is to be able to visualize this in a string, in a line of text where this might be. And so I can right-click on this on the Mac and get info, and on the PC, similarly, you can find it with properties, but it actually tells me as a path where this folder is. Users, my author ID in the Documents folder inside CST251. So the tips come in when I recommend never using or never viewing your files in icon mode. Whenever you're dealing with web, it's best to view in tree mode, I would call it, or explorer mode on the Windows machine. So I'm actually going to back up a couple of directories here so we can get a better view. And so I've got this directory with all my stuff in it, and if I click on the twirly arrow, it's going to drop down. And so it's going to give me a clearer picture that this is in the Documents folder, in the CST251 folder, inside the Images folder, and if there were files in here, that would show up there. So the same is true on a Windows machine. So I'm sorry, the same is true on the web. So if I wanted to access a file inside my web browser, and let me just bring this up here. And I'm going to make a new tab, new window here. I'm going to go to the web server, and so the first place you need to go on the web server is the domain. So if I go to hosting.autorlabs.org, that is the domain, and I'm going to drill into the classes folder. Now the classes folder is where all user folders, web folders, are held. So that's just a folder inside the server. So I've got my domain, I've got the classes folder, and then I've got my web folder, which is my user account. And then I've got another folder called grading. There's other folders on here. You'll have a folder called CST251. And so that's the path that is on that web server. So domain, folder, 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 and then, as you recall, there's an Images folder as well, and you can drill into that. So this gives you an idea that this represents the same path that you would see on your Mac or PC. It just happens to be on the web server. The one difference is that from here, this point over, is actually the web server root folder. So the web server, the software on the computer, on the server, takes care of all those other folders that are below this and says, look, we're just going to show the classes folder to the users on the web. So that's a little bit different in that you are just seeing part of the folder directory, folder structure on the web server. But it's, the net effect is the same. You've got a classes folder, you've got a user folder. I've created now this is within my domain. I can create folders in here and upload files. The important thing to remember here is that you absolutely have to keep the same structure on both your web server and on your local computer. A lot of people will make a modification to a file on the desktop, drag it up to the server or upload it somehow. Or there are ways to open the files directly on the server and edit them direct. Well, there's some serious problems with that. First of all, you don't have a backup. For beginning users, web users, they don't have a very clear picture of where that file is on the web server. So it's imperative, many times, every semester I have students who have troubles understanding this, and getting it right means passing or failing the class. And that's God's honest truth. You've got to understand where your files are on both your desktop and your server, and they've got to match. So quickly, I'm going to open up Fetch, and what I'm going to do is I've got I'm going to close this actually, and I'm going to connect to the web server here. So we're going to go to New Connection, and I'm just going to connect to my hosting account on the server. So again, Fetch is really nice. It shows you what the folder structure is. It looks very much like a Mac. And here's that classes folder. So it dropped you right into the classes folder. Here's everyone else's work. Obviously, you don't want to access everyone else's work. You want to access your work. So what I do is I just start typing my last name, and it brings me directly to my folder. So if I open my folder, you can see inside that folder I've got a CST251 folder, and it's empty. So now if I wanted to mirror that, I can go back and I can do the same thing on this. I'm going to command click on the address there. And so I've got CST251, I've got images. I know that I need that images folder up on the server, so I'm going to open this up and I'm going to drag this images folder over. And so I'm dragging and dropping. It's not the best way to manage the files. I can show you in another video. I'll show you FileZilla, which is a much more, a little more complex, a little more frustrating at the beginning, but it gives you a very clear picture. If you set it up correctly, it gives you a very clear picture of what the file structure is on both machines, and you can actually have synchronized browsing. So I can browse to the images folder, and on the server it would browse at the same time. Very handy to have, and I'll show you that in another video. So right now, both of my files, or both of my folders on both my local machine and my server are the same. And so hopefully this will help you a little bit. But the main thing to remember here is always view your work in tree view. Get out of icons or thumbnail or page view, whatever you call it. Put it in tree view where you can actually start to see the folders and how they're nested. And if you're curious to know where that file is on your machine, you can right-click again, get info, and it will tell you the path to that folder. This gets more and more complex as you get more and more folders, so that's important to know. Hopefully this helps, and good luck in your endeavors.